My name is Matt, and I'm 37. My wife, Amanda, is 35. We've been married for 11 years, together for almost 13. On the outside, we were the picture-perfect couple. A cute house in the suburbs, 2 kids, and weekend trips to farmers markets. But if I'm being honest, things had been rocky for the last year or so. Amanda's always had this sharp edge to her. Confident, some might say intimidating, but lately, it felt more like she was distant. The warmth that used to be there, the little acts of affection, were gone. She started spending more time on her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't explain, and finding excuses to leave the house without me. I convinced myself it was just a phase. I mean, we'd been together over a decade, and every marriage has ups and downs, right? She said she was reconnecting with old friends from high school, and I wanted to be supportive. I even encouraged her when she mentioned meeting up with a group of them a couple of times. But then little things started adding up. She got defensive when I asked about her nights out, always brushing me off with comments like, "God, Matt, you're so paranoid," or, "Not everything is about you." She'd started dressing up more than usual. Tight dresses, heels, perfume she hadn't worn in years. Still, I didn't push. I told myself it was just Amanda rediscovering herself. I trusted her. But trust, as I'd soon find out, is a fragile thing. The night I found out, I wasn't even looking for it. That's what makes it so damn cruel. It wasn't some dramatic showdown or an overheard conversation. It was a random Tuesday, and Amanda had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower, humming away like she didn't have a care in the world. I was passing by when the screen lit up with a notification. A new message from Evan. Now, I'd heard that name before. Evan was Amanda's high school boyfriend, the love of her life, before they broke up and she eventually met me. She'd mentioned him a few times over the years, always dismissively, like he was ancient history. But that message didn't look like ancient history. It said, "Last night was incredible. I haven't stopped thinking about you all day." I froze. My brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe it's a joke, maybe it's not what it seems. But I knew better. My stomach twisted as I clicked on the message thread. What I found there was worse than I could have imagined. There were weeks of texts, maybe months. Flirty, romantic, even explicit messages. Things she hadn't said to me in years. "You're the only one who really gets me, Evan. I can't wait to feel your arms around me again. Matt's so boring these days. I need someone who makes me feel alive." And then there were the pictures. Pictures of her in lingerie I didn't even know she owned. Sent with captions like, "Thinking of you." My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize I was sweating until a drop hit the keyboard. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. And then I heard it. The sound of the shower turning off. Amanda was coming downstairs, completely unaware that her world was about to change. I didn't even try to calm down. There was no point. My chest was tight, and my fists were clenched as I stared at the messages, the photos, all the proof of Amanda's betrayal. When she walked into the kitchen, her hair wrapped in a towel and her face glowing from the shower, she smiled at me. "Hey, what's for dinner?" she asked, completely oblivious. I held up her laptop. "You tell me, Amanda. Maybe Evan has some suggestions." Her smile vanished instantly. Her eyes darted to the laptop, then to my face and back again. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice defensive, her eyes narrowing. "Don't," I snapped, slamming the laptop onto the counter. "Don't even try to lie to me. I saw everything. The texts, the photos. Last night was incredible?" "What the hell, Amanda?" Her face flushed, a mix of anger and panic. "You went through my laptop?" she fired back, as if that was the real crime here. "How dare you invade my privacy?" "Your privacy?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Is that what you're calling it? Sneaking around with your ex-boyfriend while I'm sitting at home like an idiot? Don't try to turn this on me, Amanda." She crossed her arms, her tone shifting to icy condescension. "You're overreacting. Evan and I are just friends. Nothing's happened." "Nothing's happened?" I barked, pointing to the screen. "So what, this is all innocent? The lingerie photos? The I can't wait to feel your arms around me. Do you think I'm stupid? She faltered for a second, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Then she straightened up, her face twisting into a sneer. Fine, she spat. Yes, I've been seeing Evan. But you know what, Matt? It's your fault. You've been checked out for years. You don't make me feel special anymore. You don't even try. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My fault, I shouted. You think cheating on me with your ex is justified because I didn't plan enough date nights? Are you serious right now? Her expression shifted again, this time to fake tears. I was lonely, Matt, she whimpered. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood me. It just happened.
I stærte her, dumbfundet.
It didn't just happen, Amanda. You made a choice. Over and over again, you chose to lie to me, to sneak around, to betray me. Don't act like this was some accident. For the first time, she looked genuinely scared. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand to stop her. Save it, I said coldly. You can explain yourself to someone who cares. I'm done listening to your bullshit. I grabbed my keys and walked out, slamming the door behind me. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. I drove aimlessly for hours that night. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. The streets blurred past me, but all I could see was Amanda's smug face, her lies, and those damn texts. I finally pulled over in a dark, empty parking lot and let the weight of it all crash down on me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight I thought I might snap it in half. Then, without warning, the tears came. I'm not the kind of guy who cries often, but this was a different kind of pain. It wasn't just losing Amanda. It was losing the life I thought we had. The trust, the memories, the plans for the future. All of it felt tainted now, like a cruel joke I hadn't been in on. I replayed everything in my head, looking for signs I'd missed, moments where I could have stopped this from happening. Did I work too much? Did I take her for granted? But every time I tried to blame myself, I came back to the same conclusion. None of it excused what she'd done. When I finally got home, it was past midnight. The house was dark, and Amanda was asleep, or pretending to be. I crashed on the couch, unable to face the bed we'd shared for so many years. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Amanda was in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. Morning, she said cautiously, setting a mug on the counter for me. I ignored her. The sight of her, the sound of her voice, made my stomach turn. Matt, she started, her tone soft, like she was talking to a child. We need to talk about this. I know you're hurt, but we can get through it. We've been through worse, haven't we? I looked at her, my face blank.
No, Amanda.
We haven't, and we won't. I don't know how you think we're just going to move past this like it's some minor argument. You destroyed our marriage. Her face fell, but she recovered quickly. I was lonely, she said, her voice trembling. I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, Matt. Don't throw away everything we've built over one stupid mistake. I wanted to scream, to throw the coffee mug across the room, but I didn't. Instead, I stood up, my voice calm but ice cold. You didn't make a mistake, Amanda. You made a series of choices. Choices to betray me. And now I get to make my choice. Her lip quivered, but I didn't care. For the first time, I felt like I was regaining control. After that conversation, I knew there was no saving us. I wasn't interested in reconciliation, and frankly, Amanda's half-baked apologies and excuses only solidified my decision. I started by contacting a divorce lawyer. The consultation was sobering, but it gave me clarity. My lawyer asked if I had evidence of Amanda's infidelity, and when I showed her the texts and photos, she nodded approvingly. This will work in your favor, she said. Amanda must have sensed something was brewing because she became oddly accommodating over the next few days. She cooked my favorite meals, asked about my day, even offered to help with chores she usually avoided. It would have been almost sweet if it wasn't so transparent. One evening, she tried to initiate a serious conversation. Matt, I know I messed up, she said, her voice dripping with manufactured sincerity. But I love you, and I want to fix this. We can go to therapy, work on our communication. Whatever it takes. I stared at her for a long moment, debating whether to tell her about the lawyer right then and there. But I decided against it. Let her think she still had a chance. I'll think about it, I said simply, and her face lit up like she'd just won the lottery. The next day, I put the next phase of my plan into motion. I reached out to Evan's wife. Yes, Evan was married, something Amanda had conveniently failed to mention. I found her on Facebook after a little sleuthing and sent her a direct message. I was nervous about how she'd react, but I figured she deserved to know. The message read, "Hi, I don't know if you're aware, but I believe your husband, Evan, has been having an affair with my wife, Amanda. I've attached screenshots of their messages and photos. I thought you should know." She responded within an hour. Her name was Claire, and she was as furious as I was. "Thank you for telling me," she wrote. "I had no idea. Evan's been coming home late and acting weird, but I never suspected this. I'm so sorry you're going through this too." Claire and I exchanged a few more messages, and it became clear that we were on the same page. Neither of us was going to let this slide. That's when the idea struck me. "Would you be interested in exposing them publicly?" I asked. Her reply was immediate. "Absolutely." Claire didn't waste any time. The next day, she crafted a detailed post on Facebook, tagging both Evan and Amanda. It was a masterpiece of righteous fury, listing dates, screenshots of their messages, and even a couple of the more incriminating photos. The caption read, "To everyone who knows Evan and Amanda, this is what betrayal looks like. My husband and his mistress, destroying two families while pretending to be decent people. I hope it was worth it." The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in. Mutual friends, co-workers, even a few acquaintances who just couldn't resist the drama. Some were supportive, others were downright savage. Amanda's phone must have blown up because she came storming into the living room, clutching it like it was on fire. "What the hell is this, Matt?" she screeched, shoving the screen in my face. I feigned confusion. "What's what?" "This?" she shouted, pointing at Claire's post. "You told her about us? You're trying to humiliate me?" I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. "I didn't try to humiliate you, Amanda. You did that all by yourself." Her face twisted with rage, but before she could launch into another tirade, her phone buzzed again. Another message, another notification. The walls were closing in, and she knew it. Meanwhile, Evan wasn't faring any better. Claire told me he tried to deny everything at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. When denial didn't work, he resorted to begging, which only made her angrier. By the end of the day, Amanda was pacing the house like a caged animal, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. Every buzz made her flinch. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she hissed at me. "People at work have seen this. My boss has seen this." "Good," I said, my voice as cold as ice. "Maybe you'll think twice before tearing someone's life apart next time." That night, she slept in the guest room, if she slept at all. I stayed up late, scrolling through the comments on Claire's post, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. The fallout was massive. Amanda and Evan's reputations were in tatters. By the end of the week, Amanda was put on unpaid leave at work, pending further review. And Evan was served with divorce papers from Claire. It was brutal. It was messy. And it was exactly what they deserved. The fallout hit Amanda harder than I could have anticipated. For someone who prided herself on being in control, this public humiliation was her worst nightmare. She tried to keep a brave face, but it was clear she was unraveling. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Calls from friends, messages from coworkers, even her own family questioning her about the affair. At first, she snapped at everyone, insisting it was blown out of proportion and not as bad as it looks. But the cracks in her armor grew. One evening, I found her sitting on the floor of the guest room, surrounded by balled-up tissues and staring blankly at her phone. "They're all turning against me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Even my friends, people I've known for years. They're calling me a liar, a cheater. Do you know what it's like to have everyone hate you? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. I don't know, Amanda. Maybe you should ask Claire. Or me. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. Couldn't. Not after what she'd done. She started spiraling after that. She spent hours on social media, obsessively reading comments about her, trying to find someone, anyone, who would take her side. But the more she tried to justify herself, the worse it got. People weren't buying her excuses, and the backlash was relentless. At work, things weren't much better. Kara, a coworker who'd always seemed to like Amanda, told me over coffee that the office was buzzing with gossip. She's barely holding it together, Kara said. She broke down in the break room yesterday when someone made a joke about loyalty. I should have felt pity, but I didn't. This was the bed Amanda had made, and now she had to lie in it. One night, she tried a new tactic, full-on desperation. She cornered me in the kitchen, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Matt, please," she said, grabbing my arm. "I'm begging you. Don't leave me. We can fix this. I'll do anything." I pulled my arm away, disgusted by the sudden shift in her demeanor. "Amanda, this isn't about fixing us anymore. It's about you finally facing the consequences of your actions." Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, sobbing like I'd never seen before. "I've lost everything," she wailed. "Please, Matt, don't take away the one thing I have left." I stared down at her, feeling nothing but a cold emptiness where my love for her used to be. "Amanda," I said quietly, "you lost me the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. This isn't on me. It's on you." Amanda's breakdown marked a turning point. Not for her, but for me. Seeing her crumble under the weight of her actions didn't bring me satisfaction like I thought it might. Instead, it brought clarity. This wasn't my problem to fix. I began detaching myself completely. I focused on work, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, and even picked up a gym routine, something I hadn't done since college. Every day I felt a little more like me again. Amanda, meanwhile, seemed to be spiraling deeper into chaos. She rarely left the house, terrified of running into someone who'd seen Claire's post. When she wasn't crying, she was trying to bargain with me. "Matt, what if we sold the house and moved somewhere else?" she asked one night, her voice trembling with desperation. "We could start over. No one would know." I didn't even bother responding. Then, one day, I came home to find Amanda sitting in the living room, her suitcase by the door. She looked up at me, her face pale but determined. "I'm leaving," she said. I raised an eyebrow, unsure if this was some kind of manipulative ploy. "What do you mean, you're leaving?" She sighed, running a hand through her unwashed hair. "I can't do this anymore. The looks, the whispers, the shame. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Probably for the best." Her eyes searched my face, maybe for some hint of regret, but she found none. Finally, she grabbed her suitcase and walked out the door without another word. That night, for the first time in months, the house was quiet. I sat on the couch, staring at the empty space where Amanda's shoes used to pile up, and felt an overwhelming sense of relief. This wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The start of something new, something better. The silence Amanda left behind was both freeing and eerie. The house felt bigger, emptier, but also lighter without her presence hanging over me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. I began to focus on rebuilding. The first thing I did was call a realtor to start the process of selling the house. I didn't want to stay in the place that had become a monument to Amanda's lies. The realtor was sympathetic when I vaguely explained the situation, and within weeks, the house was listed. As the sale moved forward, I worked on other parts of my life. I reconnected with my brother, who invited me out for drinks with his friends, a group I hadn't seen in years. It was refreshing to laugh again, to feel like myself without the weight of Amanda's drama dragging me down. Meanwhile, the fallout from Claire's exposé continued to ripple through our social circle. Amanda's absence didn't stop the gossip mill. Friends who had been on the fence about what happened started reaching out, cautiously asking for my side of the story. I kept it simple. She cheated and I'm done. Most people were supportive. A few tried to play devil's advocate, suggesting I should have given her a second chance. Everyone makes mistakes, one friend said. True, I replied. But not everyone makes the same mistake every night with their ex-boyfriend. That usually ended the conversation. Claire and I stayed in touch occasionally, sharing updates on our respective lives. She finalized her divorce from Evan a few months after Amanda left, and we joked about how we should write a handbook for dealing with cheating spouses. I'm thinking of calling it, How to Burn Their Lives Down Without Breaking a Sweat, she texted me one day. Sounds like a bestseller, I replied, smiling for what felt like the 100th time since Amanda's departure. As for Amanda, I heard through mutual friends that her life wasn't going great. She was living with her sister, trying to find a new job, and keeping a low profile after the public humiliation. Part of me felt bad for her, but I reminded myself that she'd brought this on herself. By the time the house sold, I was ready to move on completely. I found a small apartment downtown, perfect for starting fresh. The first night there, I stood on the balcony with a beer in hand, looking out at the city lights, and felt something I hadn't in a long time: peace. The first few weeks in my new apartment were surreal. It was strange waking up alone, without Amanda's presence looming in the background. But it was also liberating. Every inch of the space was mine. No reminders of her, no ghosts of our broken marriage lingering in the corners. I threw myself into building a new life. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned during my marriage: woodworking, running, even sketching. I started meeting people at a local gym and joined a running club, which helped me regain my confidence socially. Work became my anchor. Without the constant emotional drain of dealing with Amanda's betrayal, I found myself excelling in ways I hadn't before. My boss noticed the change, and within a few months, I was offered a promotion. It felt like a sign that I was heading in the right direction. Occasionally, I'd hear about Amanda. Apparently, she moved back to our hometown to be closer to her parents. Mutual friends told me she was still struggling to rebuild her life, but I didn't dwell on it. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. One day, I got a message from Claire. Evan tried to apologize again, she wrote, followed by a string of eye-roll emojis. How'd that go? I replied. I told him to shove it. Obviously, she said. Then, after a pause, you doing okay? I smiled at my phone. Claire had been a surprising source of support through all this. We didn't talk often, but when we did, it was always easy, like two old war buddies reminiscing about battles we'd survived. I'm better than okay, I replied. For the first time in years, I actually feel like myself again. Good, she wrote back. You deserve it. Her words stuck with me. I realized she was right. I did deserve it. I'd spent too long compromising myself for a relationship that wasn't worth saving. Now I was finally free to live on my terms. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that trust is everything in a relationship. Without it, you're just two people sharing a house and pretending to be happy. If someone breaks that trust, they're showing you who they really are. Believe them. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, don't ignore the signs. Don't settle for less than you deserve. And when the time comes to let go, don't be afraid to start over. Scary, but it's worth it. Thank you for staying with me. This crazy journey is finally over and I'm ready for what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more interesting stories. And leave a comment with what you would do in this situation. See you in the next videos.